Suspense hung in the air as Archangel Michael descended to deliver a message that would echo through the hearts of all who listened. There was a deep urgency in his voice, a sense that something crucial was unfolding that could change the course of destiny for all of humanity. His words were not just a warning but an invitation to reflect, heal, and seek redemption. It was as though the universe itself was reaching out, urging all to pay attention. Archangel Michael spoke with a voice that resonated like thunder in the sky, shaking the very foundation of existence. His message was clear: you have heard Jesus in ways you cannot even fathom. He has seen the pain, the suffering, the mistakes that have been made. And yet, He forgives. But you must realize the gravity of your actions. His word struck a chord deep within, stirring emotions that had long been buried beneath the surface. There was no turning back now. As the Archangel's words filled the air, it became evident that this moment was unlike any other. The message was not just for a select few, it was a call to all of humanity to look inward, to examine the ways in which they had caused harm, knowingly or unknowingly. Jesus has been watching you, Archangel Michael continued, and He understands your struggles, but the time has come for you to face the consequences of your actions. Your healing begins now, but only if you are willing to change. Each word seemed to hang in the air like a heavy weight, pressing on the hearts of those who listened. Archangel Michael's presence was powerful, his wings unfurled like an immense canopy, sheltering those who were willing to seek the truth. Healing is not a simple process, He said. It requires courage, honesty, and the willingness to embrace change. Jesus has already forgiven, but now you must forgive yourself. The Archangel paused, allowing his words to settle into the souls of his listeners. The silence that followed was deafening, as though the universe itself held its breath. "Amen," whispered a voice from the crowd, a prayer that carried with it a sense of yearning for healing. It was a moment of reckoning, a time for each person to decide whether they were willing to confront the truth and embark on a path of redemption. Type Amen to receive your blessing and begin your journey of transformation. As the crowd stood in awe, Archangel Michael continued, "The hurt you have caused is not just physical, it is emotional, spiritual, and psychological. The wounds run deep, but they are not beyond healing. Jesus saw you during the darkest moments, when you thought no one was watching, and He understood. But now, it is your turn to see the light and to begin the process of healing." His wings fluttered, casting an ethereal glow that filled the surroundings, bathing everything in divine light. The message was not just one of sorrow but of hope. "Healing is possible," Archangel Michael said, his voice gentle but firm. "Jesus shows you the way, not through judgment, but through love and understanding. You may have hurt Him, but He does not see you as a sinner, He sees you as someone in need of healing." The Archangel's presence grew more intense, urging everyone to reflect on their actions and to embrace the possibility of transformation. With every word, Archangel Michael revealed the power of forgiveness and the depth of divine compassion. "Forgive yourselves as Jesus has forgiven you." The path to redemption is paved with humility, sincerity, and a desire for change. It is not about perfection, but about the willingness to grow and learn from your mistakes. The air seemed to vibrate with an energy that was both calming and electrifying, as if the message was being etched into the hearts of all who listened. As the Archangel's words sank in, there was a growing sense of urgency. It was as though the moment was slipping away, and those who had heard the message were being given a limited time to act. "You must choose now," Archangel Michael continued. "Healing begins with a decision. Do you choose to move forward, to face the truth, and to seek forgiveness, or do you choose to remain in the shadows, bound by the chains of your past actions?" The tension was palpable. It was as if every soul in the vicinity was waiting for a sign. A divine signal that would confirm the truth of what had been spoken. "Type Amen if you are ready to begin your healing journey," the Archangel declared, his voice ringing out with clarity and authority. By saying Amen, you are acknowledging your willingness to accept the divine grace that is being offered to you. You are choosing to move forward, to embrace the light, and to heal the wounds that have festered within. The air was thick with anticipation, as those who listened began to feel a shift within themselves. The weight of their past transgression seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of peace that was both foreign and familiar. It was as if the very act of acknowledging their flaws, of accepting the divine invitation to heal, had unlocked a door to a brighter future. "Amen," a voice called out, followed by another, and soon, the word echoed throughout the crowd, like a prayer of renewal. In that moment, something profound shifted. Archangel Michael's message had sparked a flame within each heart, a desire for transformation that could not be extinguished. The divine light that had descended upon them now radiated from within, as though each person had unlocked a hidden well of strength, love, and wisdom. Healing is not a one-time event, the Archangel reminded them. It is a continuous process, but now, you are no longer alone. You have the support of the divine. And you have the power to change. As the words of Archangel Michael continued to reverberate, the sense of divine presence grew stronger. There was no turning back now. The decision had been made, and the path of healing had begun. Amen. A chorus of voices responded, each utterance a declaration of commitment to the journey ahead. With each Amen, the air seemed to shimmer with a renewed sense of hope and possibility. The journey of healing was not easy, and it was not without its challenges. But as Archangel Michael had said, it was a journey that could not be undertaken alone. With every step, the divine presence would guide, protect, and nurture. "Remember," the Archangel said, his voice softening. "You are never alone. Even in your darkest moments, Jesus is with you, watching over you, ready to help you heal." The path was long, but the destination was worth it. As each person embarked on their individual journey of transformation, they carried with them the blessing of divine grace. "Type Amen to receive your blessing," Archangel Michael urged once more, and as the crowd responded, the energy in the air became palpable, a powerful force of love and healing that seemed to envelop everything in its embrace. There was no more fear, no more doubt. The divine message had been received, and the healing process had begun. With each Amen, the bond between humanity and the divine grew stronger. A testament to the power of forgiveness, love, and transformation. "You are healed," Archangel Michael declared, "you are forgiven. Now, go forth and live in the light of divine grace." The final words hung in the air, a promise of a brighter future for all who were willing to embrace the healing that had been offered. It was a moment of divine clarity, a turning point in the lives of all who had heard the message. And as the Archangel ascended back into the heavens, the lingering feeling of peace and hope remained. a reminder that the path to redemption was always within reach for those who sought it. Type Amen to seal your blessing, echoed one last time. And with that, the journey of healing began. Not just for one, but for all. As the divine presence of Archangel Michael slowly faded into the ether, a deep stillness settled over the gathering. The air, once charged with urgency, now felt like a sacred silence, allowing each soul present to process the magnitude of what had just transpired. The words of the Archangel had not only reached the ears but also pierced the hearts, creating a space where transformation could begin. The souls that had heard the message were now standing at a crossroads. Each person felt the weight of their past, the burden of mistakes made, and the deep sense of yearning for healing that pulsed within. But there was a new feeling emerging from within. A quiet, steadfast hope. It was as though a seed had been planted, one that would grow into a tree of strength and grace. The silence spoke louder than any words could. This was a moment of profound change. Archangel Michael had shown them the path of redemption, but it was up to each individual to take the first step. Healing is not just an act of the Spirit, the Archangel had explained. It is an active commitment of the will, the heart, and the soul. The divine grace that has been bestowed upon you requires action, reflection, and above all, surrendering to love. It was clear now, healing wasn't a one-time event, but a journey, and each moment on that journey held the power to shape the future. For many, the road ahead seemed daunting. The idea of facing the pain of the past, of confronting their own shortcomings and wounds, felt overwhelming. But there was something empowering about the words spoken. They weren't words of judgment, but words of hope. Words that promised that even the deepest of wounds could be healed. There was no need for fear, there was only the divine invitation to embrace transformation. Archangel Michael's presence had left behind a trail of light, illuminating the way forward. Now, it is time for you to truly understand the power of forgiveness, the Archangel's voice echoed in the hearts of those present. Not just the forgiveness of others, but the forgiveness of yourself. Only through self-forgiveness can the cycle of pain be broken. Jesus has forgiven you. Now, you must forgive yourself and release the chains that bind you to the past. Each person began to feel the weight they had carried for so long begin to loosen, as though unseen hands were lifting the burden off their shoulders. The presence of divine grace was palpable, flowing through the crowd like a healing river, washing away years of guilt, shame, and regret. The transformation was slow, but it was real. With every breath, they felt more at peace, as if a long-held tension was finally releasing from their bodies and minds. As Archangel Michael's voice faded into the wind, the words of healing and forgiveness continued to resonate in the hearts of all. The divine light had been poured out, and now it was up to each person to tend to the flame of their transformation. Type Amen to affirm your decision to embrace the journey of healing. The words reverberated once more in the air. The call was not just a request, it was an invitation to become part of something greater than themselves. A divine blessing awaited anyone who was ready to receive it. The power of that simple word Amen had become a profound declaration. It was no longer just a religious utterance, it had become a doorway to healing, a promise of renewal, and a symbol of unity with the divine. By declaring Amen, they were claiming their place in the divine plan. Each Amen was a thread being woven into the tapestry of redemption. A personal acknowledgement that the journey toward healing had begun in earnest. the crowd, now spiritually awakened and united in this sacred moment, began to look at one another with new eyes. There was a shared understanding between them, a recognition that they were all walking the same path. The differences that once separated them seemed irrelevant now. What mattered was the collective commitment to heal, to forgive, and to transform. They had been touched by the divine, and that bond was stronger than anything that could divide them. Archangel Michael's words still lingered in the air: "You are not alone. You are never alone. Even in your darkest hour, know that the divine presence walks with you." These words began to settle into the deepest corners of their beings, filling the empty spaces with peace and reassurance. In their hearts, they knew that they had been given a second chance, a chance to rewrite their stories, to create a future that was shaped by love, not fear. At that moment, there was no more doubt. There was only faith. Faith that the divine was working within them, faith that healing was possible, and faith that they had the strength to overcome the pain of the past. They were not the same as they had been before the Archangel spoke to them. Each soul had been transformed by the encounter, and the healing process had begun. It was not an end, but a new beginning. Type Amen to receive your blessing. Archangel Michael's voice seemed to echo once more. This was not a request, it was an invitation to step fully into the light. With each Amen, the bonds of the past loosened further, and the divine energy of healing and grace poured into their hearts, making them whole once more. The sacred connection between the human soul and the divine had been restored, and nothing could break it. For those who had felt lost, forgotten, or abandoned, the message was clear: they were loved. They were seen. And most importantly, they were forgiven. Jesus, though hurt, was not angry. He saw the struggles and the pain of humanity, and he embraced them with an open heart. In the divine economy, there was no need for punishment, only love and understanding. The message was about redemption, not retribution. As time passed, the energy of that divine encounter continued to work its magic. People walked away from the gathering, but they carried with them a sense of divine peace that could not be shaken. The world outside might have remained unchanged, but within, something had shifted. They knew that they had been given the tools to heal, the strength to forgive, and the grace to move forward. Type Amen to receive your blessing. The invitation came again, each person now fully understanding its significance. With every declaration of Amen, they were choosing to let go of the past. Choosing to embrace the light, and choosing to live a life that reflected the divine truth of love and forgiveness. The path ahead would not always be easy. There would be moments of doubt, times when the old wounds would resurface, and the temptations to fall back into old patterns would arise, but the difference now was that they were armed with the knowledge that healing was possible. They were not alone, and they had been given the tools to move forward. Their journey was no longer one of isolation, but one of divine companionship and grace. As they left the gathering, each person felt a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity to heal, for the chance to begin anew. The divine message of Archangel Michael had not just been heard. It had been embraced, it had taken root deep within their souls, and now, the journey of transformation was fully underway. The final words of the Archangel echoed in the hearts of all who had listened: "You are healed. You are forgiven. Now, go forth and live in the light of divine grace." And as they stepped into the world, they carried the blessing of that divine light with them, a light that could never be extinguished. It would continue to shine, guiding them on their journey of healing, forgiveness, and redemption. Type Amen to seal your blessing. As the final words of Archangel Michael resonated within their hearts, a wave of divine energy washed over the gathering, leaving a profound sense of peace and serenity. The crowd, once restless and filled with uncertainty, now stood united in their commitment to healing. There was no confusion, no sense of doubt, only a deep knowing that the journey they had just begun was sacred and transformative. They had been touched by something far greater than themselves, and the divine presence of grace was now embedded in their very souls. Type Amen to affirm your blessing, echoed through the minds of each listener. The divine invitation remained open, offering a chance for those who had not yet fully grasped the depth of the message to embrace it. For those who had already said Amen, there was a profound understanding that their decision was more than just a word. It was a declaration of their readiness to walk a path of renewal, a path that would take them through challenges and triumphs alike, but always under the protection of divine love. There were some who stood in silence, absorbing the power of the moment, feeling as if the veil between heaven and earth had been lifted just for them. They knew, deep within, that they were not the same as they had been when they first arrived. Something had shifted. Something had awakened. They had been touched by a love so pure and so unconditional that it transcended any pain or darkness they had known. And in that moment, they felt reborn, but the journey was not without its complexities. It was a journey that would demand courage, commitment, and the ability to surrender the past. You must walk this path with courage, Archangel Michael had said, his words now a constant echo in their minds. The light will guide you, but the steps are yours to take. Know that even in your darkest moments, when you stumble or falter, the divine will be there, lifting you up.